Is this a split call? I call Maggie Barry.
E te whare, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. E ngā uiri o Ngāti Whātua, te mana whenua o Orākei. Kei te mihi atu, I runga e te aroha. Hei tino mihi kei te whanau hawk. Warm greetings to the descendants of Ngāti Whātua, who have traditional authority over the land at Orākei. Special greetings to the leadership of Grant, to Sharon and to Joe, and to the wider Hawke family, to Ngārimu Blair and to Tiwana Tibble for their important roles. This has indeed been a very long time in coming, and I acknowledge those who have passed on. E tēnei wā, whakahirahira, ka huri, ngā whakaro, ki ngā tini tautora, kua hinga atua, tā Hugh Kāwharo, rātou, ko Ruby Gray, ko Cyril Talbot mā. He mihi aroha ki a rātou mā, e whawhai mō tō kaupapa, waiho rātou ki a moe. At this important time, our thoughts turn to the great tautora who have fallen, Hugh Kāwharo, Ruby Gray, Cyril Talbot and others. Warm greetings to those who fought for the cause. Let them now rest. I stand to support this bill, kai te tau ake ahau, ki te tau toko a tēnei pire. I join with others who have said their prayers and best wishes to Grant Hawke. Even though he is exhausted and fainted today, when I spoke to him, he was, as ever, cheerful and thinking of others. And we send our best wishes and prayers for his speedy recovery. It has been a very long and hard battle. And the people of Ngāti Whātua Orākei, although exhausted, have never wavered in their determination and in their resolve. Our congratulations go to them on this very special day. But they have paid a very high price for today's historic settlement, and I acknowledge that. The purpose of this bill is to give effect to the settlement of the deed entered into by the Crown and Ngāti Whātua Orākei. It is sponsored by the Honourable Chris Finlayson, who continues to do, I think, a magnificent job of completing the work started by Sir Douglas Graham. If you judge the Honourable Chris Finlayson by his achievements, I'm certain that history will acknowledge that he is the most effective member and Minister of Treaty of Waitangi negotiations this country has ever seen. I had the privilege of witnessing the Minister's signature at the signing of the Tamaki Collective a couple of months ago at the museum. And in the time I have been involved with the settlement, I have welcomed the wisdom and the very balanced approach of the Minister and also of the Crown's chief negotiator, Mike Drever, who has helped explain the detail of the settlement and help the community on the North Shore to understand why the cultural and historic redress is so important and why it needed to happen. Since we became government in 2008, National has signed 22 deeds of settlement because we believe we need to resolve these historical issues. We need to do what is fair to right the wrongs of the past so that we can leave the pain and the grievances behind us and to move forward together as a nation. This John Key-led government honours the partnership in the Treaty of Waitangi and with tenacity and determination has negotiated in good faith. This settlement focuses on the cultural and historic redresses and it forms the basis for the Crown apology to Ngāti Whātua Orākei. As the Member of Parliament for the North Shore for not quite, almost 1 year next week, I can tell all of those who are gathered here in the House today for the third reading of this bill that this settlement has been contentious locally, particularly in Devonport, as others have spoken of. But looking back at the history to 1840, following Ngāti Whātua Orākei's chief signing of the Treaty of Waitangi, some 32 acres of land was transferred to the Crown, much of which was then on-sold for a vast profit. And while that land allowed European settlers, there were too few benefits and too few protections to Ngāti Whātua Orākei. And as others have said, almost all of their land was lost, and the once proud tribe was impoverished and suffered terribly. I commend Ngāti Whātua Orākei on your patience and your very generous spirit throughout the long and frustrating decades of inaction, and then through the robust negotiations over some 13 years now that have led to today's historic settlement. The financial and commercial redress recognises the economic loss suffered because of the Crown's breaches of the treaty. Ngāti Whātua Orākei, as the Minister has said, will receive $18 million plus interest. And using these and their own funds, they now assume the right to purchase 2 properties and to purchase and lease back 6 more. This includes the narrow neck block, which is currently used by the Defence Force, and will be leased back to the Navy for a minimum of 15 years and for a maximum of up to 150 years. Public access to the land at Narrow Neck will continue to be available in exactly the same way as it is today. In fact, it will be improved, because the public walkway is now enshrined in legislation and will be available in perpetuity to everyone. I am very aware, as the Member of Parliament for the North Shore, that some of the European settlers in Devonport have a very strong sense of connection to that land at Narrow Neck. It is an integral part of their traditions and of their community, and it is very special to them. Knowing how important that land is to so many, I invited all the concerned parties to kōrero with the Minister Finlayson at the end of March, that Saturday morning in March. Some 500 people attended the meeting, and the depth of feeling was very apparent, and there was robust questioning and discussion. As the MP, I encouraged all of those with concerns to participate in the process and to make submissions to the Māori Affairs Select Committee. That committee received and considered 99 written submissions on the bill and heard 23 oral submissions at the Orākei marae. As a result of that consultation, there were 3 amendments, and ultimately the committee unanimously supported the bill in its final form. With today's final reading, this settlement passes into law. And while I acknowledge the depth of sentiment that some detractors have, I urge them to now put aside that and to draw a line in the sand and to welcome Ngāti Whātua Orākei with open arms. I know from my meetings and my discussions with tribal members, from members of the Hawke family in particular, that they are completely sincere in wanting to be active and constructive members of our community. From today, when this bill is passed into legislation, Ngāti Whātua Orākei will become the biggest single landowners in Devonport. They will be great neighbours, and we are indeed fortunate to have them as part of our community and to have them amongst us. And my hope as the local MP is that the unity and the harmony that is expressed here today will continue on in the North Shore and will be very evident there. And we do welcome you with all our hearts and thank you for your forbearance, your determination and your tenacity. This is a day I will never forget. This is an emotional time made more poignant by Grant's collapse, the man that many call Uncle. He is a remarkable individual and somebody who has touched many of our hearts. It is symbolic that on this day he was affected by what happened, and it is particularly poignant that such a strong and dedicated leader should have been taken to hospital to recover. We understand that he is there under observation, but as I said earlier, our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family and his whānau. His resilience and determination and the wisdom and leadership he has shown, I think, sets the tone to celebrate today's settlement. And I congratulate all of you for being here today, for making the journey in the buses, a hikue of sorts. I know you stopped along the way, and I thank you all for being here today and making this such a special occasion. Nō reira, ka motu taku kōrero, mō tēnei wā. So I have finished speaking for the time being, but ka tuku aroha kia koutou o Ngāti Whātua Orākei. Mono nāwe, mi te mamai. E ngāo ānai kai rautou me tu kaha koutou, kia oti pai ai. I commend this to the House, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.